Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How's it going? Rob the engineer is here on this first day of November. Or is it the second day of November? I don't know, because it depends on what you consider. Is it midnight Sunday morning, or is it midnight Saturday night, or 12 o'clock Sunday morning? I don't know. What I do know is that we're falling back, Rob. We're falling back today. Does the entire country set their clocks back today? I think they do. Not everybody. Well, if you're supposed to set your clock back, I hope you know who you are. Because tonight's the night to do it. As soon as the show is over, set your clock back. Thank you for stopping by. We have a very interesting group of authors tonight, as usual. And this week, we're going to start off with some pretty heavy stuff, I got to tell you. Some of these people have gone through some unbelievable circumstances, but managed to pull themselves together enough to write about it. And it's interesting, how many authors tell me that writing's therapeutic, and finally being able to detail a difficult time or situation in their lives lifts a great burden from their shoulders. So when we talk about writing, yeah, it's great to come up with a wonderful, imaginative story, but, sometimes the story you really need to tell, and maybe you really should tell, is your own. We're going to start tonight with Sandra Canaday. And she's got one of those stories. The name of her book is called The Pushed Away Child, about a little girl nobody wanted. Tell us about your story, Sandra.
Well, my brothers were wanted, but I wasn't wanted. So I was just kept in the background and given away more times than I've got fingers and toes to what was supposed to be friends and some relatives. And that's how I grew up.
They sent you away?
Oh, my mother did. My dad was gone. She drove my dad away. I saw my father one time in my life, and I was 14 years old for 10 minutes. And first time I'd ever seen him, the last time I saw him, because he died a year later.
What was their deal?
I have no idea. There were 7 of us, and the first 3 died mysteriously, and nobody seemed to know what happened to them. They just died. So that left me being the only girl in the family with 3 brothers.
How did you live your life with all of this?
It was hard. It was very hard. Hadn't been for God and my grandmother, I would not have made it. But unfortunately, my grandmother died when I was 9 years old, and that's when the hell really began, because I had nobody to protect me then.
What happened?
My mother was in the street with her men. She liked to drink. She smoked. She didn't care whether I ate or whether I didn't. She didn't care whether I slept or I didn't. I mean, she would take me places with her, and she would drop me off at people's houses, people I didn't know, never seen before in my life. Here, me, a little girl, and she would take off with a man, and sometimes it would be weeks before I would lay eyes on her again. And then when she walked back in, there was no hug, no kiss, no are you all right? It's just, let's go. And we would go back to the hometown until she found somebody else that interested her, and then I'd get snatched up, and I'd get thrown into somebody else's house that I didn't know. She gave me away as a payment at the age of 12.
A payment?
So that her sister could come from another city to visit with her, and she couldn't drive, so this man that she knew was going to bring her. But the only way he would bring her is that she and my mother bargained that they would give me to him, which is what they did. And this man carried me off in his car. And for 3 solid hours, this man turned me into a woman. And when I was brought back to the house that we were living in, I was as bloody as a butchered pig. They were sitting there. Neither one of them turned around and looked at me. Nobody said anything to me. I was never taken to a doctor. Nothing. The dirty deed that she and my aunt did was never mentioned.
Sandra, oh my God. How long did you live with this before you told somebody?
I never told anybody.
You never told anybody till you wrote this book?
Nobody. Neighbors, schoolmates, brothers, aunts, uncles. Nobody on earth but me and God knew this deep, dark, filthy thing that had happened to me. I was so ashamed. Even as a woman, I was so ashamed of what she did to me that she could give me to somebody as a payment for a ride in a car.
I can't even wrap my head around this.
One night I broke down in my bedroom and I cried and I said, Lord, I can't carry this anymore. You got to do something to let me get rid of it. If I don't get rid of it, I'm going to lose my mind. It just hurts so bad to know that somebody brought me in this world and hated me to the point where I had done nothing. I mean, I never breathed what happened to me to a living soul. Nobody knew what happened but her, my aunt, the man, God, and I.
Wow, Sandra. So now that the book is out there, now your son knows, is it a big weight off your shoulder?
Yes.
Yes. So this was...
Because I have put her out of my life. I have put her out of my mind as far as I'm concerned. She was just a bad spot in my life.
Yeah.
It's gone. I buried her, and when I buried her, I walked away, and I totally forgot about her.
Now, did you get therapy or any kind of help?
No.
No?
All I did was pray.
Sandra, you have an unbelievable story. Even more unbelievable is the fact that you managed to keep it together all of those years. You managed to get a job, have a son, raise him, all while holding in this unbelievable secret. Hopefully you get some relief from that burden now that you carried all those years. The Pushed Away Child is the name of the book. Up next, we have another true story. Orlando Mora wrote Divorcing the Devil. Orlando, tell us about your devil.
Well, it's kind of a metaphor. Some of the things in life that kind of drag us down and beat us up.
Well, it sounds like you overcame a lot of adversity in your life.
I have, but not completely. It's a constant battle all the time. We never really are separated from adversity. It's a constant battle in our lives. Before my parents, there were probably another 2 generations of alcoholism and abuse, and it was passed from generation to generation.
And then you had to deal with issues of abuse and alcoholism.
Yes, and it's why there's so much divorce in our country and around the world.
And what's your message?
My message is through religion, and I chose the Mormon religion, God can help us overcome devastating circumstances. That we can be better people because of the stuff that happens to us.
What was your moment, your turning point?
I overdosed approximately 6 times, and the last time I was 36 years old, and I've just had enough of almost 20 years of that kind of lifestyle. I just couldn't take it anymore, physically, emotionally, mentally, and I thought I ended up in a hospital, which I was afraid of many times because I didn't think anybody could help me. But the last time, I think that I just hit the bottom. I overdosed on a lot of cocaine and Bacardi, and my heart was pounding. I thought I was having a heart attack, and I thought I would die for sure. A friend took me to the hospital, and they threw me into detox, and I was thrilled. I was scared to death, but I was thrilled, and that was the turning point.
So you were lucky to get a friend who was willing to do that for you.
Yes, I learned that that there's many of us that go through this, that I wasn't alone. I actually did exactly what they told me. I got a sponsor, I went to meetings, I got a spiritual advisor, and I read the big book, and I did the 12-step program, and I think a combination of that and and attending church every Sunday and having the Lord help me, I was able to stay clean for all these years.
How many years has it been?
Well, it was November 1996 when I entered detox.
You know, and it's amazing, and you've stayed clean all this time.
I have. I know that I couldn't do it without God's help.
I have to ask you, you know, there's a heroin epidemic sweeping our country.
Oh, my gosh.
What is your take on that?
You know, what happened to me, the reason why I got into drugs is because I was looking for anybody that would listen to me, and I had a lot of pain inside. And so I chose that because it was kind of it helped me to stop the pain that I had inside. And I wonder if our kids today, if they're missing something in their life and they look for it in drugs because it stops their pain.
It's just so difficult because community by community, you know, they try to deal with it, and it's frightening. It really is frightening to me how
it is.
Because it's one of the hardest addictions to break. You're usually dead before you break the addiction to heroin, you know?
Yes.
Are you involved in community efforts or?
I've spoken to large youth groups. In the Mormon Church, we have what we call firesides, and it's a spiritual meeting with a message. And I have spoken about addictions to our youth at large settings that way, and tried to tell them exactly, that you can't do drugs once. I used to think, now just try this once, and it's just not possible. You cannot do today's drugs one time and then leave it alone. It doesn't happen.
Will you be using this book as a tool when you go out and speak to groups like this?
I haven't had that opportunity yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Orlando, you have a book that could help a lot of people, especially these kids. I don't get it. These kids getting involved in heroin. I mean, it's crazy. It's an epidemic in some parts of our country. It's certainly in the New York, New Jersey metro area because it's so affordable, it's so available, it's so easy to do. I mean, I would never do heroin, ever. I wasn't a big druggie anyway, but if I had to stick a needle in my arm, there was just no way that was happening. But now you don't even have to do that. And kids are trying it thinking, you know, they can do it once. You know, you do it once, you could die. That's what kind of drug this is. So hopefully, Orlando, you can do a lot of good with this book and you can get out and talk to people. And you know what? If you can save one life or one kid, you've done something pretty amazing. All right, we are going to take a quick break. Come back. Going to lighten it up a little bit. This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Stay with me.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Thank you so much for keeping me and Rob, my faithful engineer, company tonight. Our next author, James Monin, likes Westerns, so he wrote one. It's a mystery called Pain and Memory.
Just an N in the middle, kind of slurred and, pain and memory. He goes through a lot of pain and he can't get his memory back. That's all it is.
It's a Western.
Yeah, it's a Western and following Louis L'Amour style.
Are you a fan of Louis L'Amour?
Oh, I've read everything he has ever written at least 3 times.
So you finally decided to copy him.
Oh, no, I didn't copy him. I just...
This sounds like a pretty good mystery, though. Got a guy by the name of James the Hammer.
Yeah, James R. Mall, yep.
And he was attacked and woke up, didn't know who he was.
He was drugged down a dry riverbed.
What did he do?
They wanted his land.
What era does this take place in?
Oh, this is in the 1870s and 80s.
When he wakes up, how does he get moving again?
Well, he just goes along, and his wife, he didn't know who was his wife. His wife helps him remember things, and as the time goes on, one thing will kind of click, and he'll remember, but it's a really slow process.
And then once he remembers,
he'll just remember a little bit at a time, but he has to get help from other people trying to figure out why they're still trying to kill him. Because he tried it once, but it didn't work, so they kept on trying. Of course, he has to shoot his way out. That's where the shoot 'em up, bang bang comes into play. But I'm proud of it. There's not one single cuss word in the whole book.
well, good for you, Jim.
It's for older kids. The little kids, the shooting is not too good, but the older kids, they can identify with the Western,
Now, none of this is based on real life, is it?
Absolutely not. No, that's no real life. It came from my brain.
Have you ever written before?
No, I haven't. It was the first time. I got on disability, and I couldn't do anything. In fact, I could hardly sit. But I've been trying to think of something to do, and I just started writing one day, and I just kept going.
Were people reading it as you went along?
My wife was, and she kept on asking me, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" Each chapter or each couple pages. She was kind of cute. My best fan.
She was excited to find out what happened next.
That's my girl. Well, the girl in there is Diane. She's a redhead with brown eyes. That's my wife, Diane, redhead with brown eyes.
She's got a special role.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want readers to take away from this?
To never give up and always protect family. Family comes first.
How did you end up with Paige?
To tell you the truth, it was a advertisement on TV. Then I got with Jason Murray,
Mm-hmm.
and he led me along he was perfect. He did so good. I owe a lot to him because he gave me the ideas that I needed to have it done, have it published and everything. And no problems whatsoever.
So now what?
Oh, I'm telling everybody I can, and I live in this little tiny town here in Arkansas. I think there's around 1,600 people at the most, and the little tiny library is going to have me a book signing. So I'm hoping at least 10 people will show up. This is just a new adventure. It doesn't make any difference how small it is.
No, it sure doesn't. I think it says something that you wrote this book. It takes a lot to sit down and write a book.
Well, it took me until it was published. When I held the book in my hand, it took about 6 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it is. Well, I even have another one coming up, but it's about the same era, but it's just totally different.
Well, there's something about the time period that attracts you. What is it?
Freedom, self-expression in that time, sticking up for yourself and being able to. Not being held down with all the extras that people try to push on you.
You mean like now?
Yeah, it wouldn't work today.
Well, no, we can't do any shoot 'em up bang bangs. Certainly not in these parts. But sounds like a fun read, James. Our next author, Arvis Stewart, wrote Islands in the Grass. It's a book he felt compelled to write because it's about a guy who finds a happy life after war, right? Is that right?
Yes, because I run into so many veterans who just don't feel like there's a place for them. And this was supposed to be a success story. But, the story plot itself goes with basically following one former soldier and his life, a successful life thereafter, which he was very lucky to obtain.
Is this about someone you know?
No, everybody is totally fictional. Even the locations basically are fictional. I've had other people describe it as basically a family story as his family grows around him.
Do you have any connection at all?
Other than my own personal military experience, which is nowhere in the same realm as this gentleman's. A couple pieces of it I wrote as part of a class writing assignment. It just hung on with me, and I finally put it together and kept adding to it till I came up with a book, basically.
Is this how you might have liked your life to turn out?
Well, I don't think anybody would complain about their life turning out like this. We should all be so successful.
What's the guy end up doing?
He winds up running a cattle ranch, which he cannot afford himself, but the woman he marries happens to inherit. So he's just basically a hired hand, but he's made the cattle ranch and made it successful.
Have you had any friends read the book?
A few friends.
And?
Generally, I think they kind of class it as a love story. Basically, that we should all be this lucky, because I know too many who aren't.
What do you hope to accomplish?
I would hope that they would come away with a real good feeling from it, because it is a success story.
Do you believe it's possible?
Possible, yes, and probably not to the extreme that I went to with it.
Okay. What does Islands in the Grass mean?
The Great Prairie is often known as a sea of grass. The islands in the sea are, of course, the homesteads and the ranch houses.
Are you doing anything to promote it?
Well, I've got a couple of things that I'm working on right now and get some promotions out probably in November time frame.
How did it feel to get this done?
I've looked at it. Of course, I know it by heart at this point. This took me a few years to really do the whole thing. And I've got a half a mind at a sequel. That's going to take a little while to get going on that for sure.
Did you enjoy writing it?
I found I've enjoyed writing it. And of course, I'm not a great English scholar, so it's been very educational for me. I wound up doing some classes mainly to keep myself occupied at the time. Actually, I wound up with a bachelor's degree in general studies out of the whole thing. But yeah, it was interesting. And of course, I guess there's another point, and I think somebody kind of made it to me, was the majority of the class was female. So some people feel like it's kind of aimed at a female audience. I think that comes from the fact that when I was starting on it, that the audience I had at that time was majority female.
Hey, that's all right, Arvis. Women love to read too, right? We read a lot. I think women might read more than men. I don't know. Sounds like a book a lot of people, male or female, will be able to appreciate. And I want to believe that more of our veterans are able to find happiness and, a life like the one you describe in your book than not. And if that's not the case, then we, I think as a country, really have to do a better job. Because, you're a veteran, you go to war, you deserve to have a decent life when you come home. I think we owe them that. All right, our last author for the night is Judith Holliday. She wrote Passion's Players, a love story adventure. It takes place in Hungary and Budapest.
Yes. I used to live in Budapest with my ex-husband, so I have some knowledge and some insight into the culture. So one day I just started to write a page, and my ex-husband, he said, well, let's get you a computer. And then I rewrote the page, and then the page turned into more pages, and before I knew it, I wrote a book.
Now, somebody steals Rochelle, is that her name?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody comes along and steals her man.
Yeah. Rochelle her father is the owner of a advertising conglomerate, and so she goes to work with him. And then when Michael comes along and he gets denied his green card, she can't help it but to want to save him because she lost her one true love. A lot of it is coming from true life, and a lot of it is, fantasy. So it's a combination of both.
Okay.
Because I've led a very interesting life.
Go ahead.
I'm married wealthy. So I've had some very interesting things happen that have led me to write this book, such as the girl in the book, she married somebody for a green card. I did a similar thing, but we were in love.
Okay.
And he needed a green card, and we did a similar thing, but we were in love. And so a lot of the things that happened to her happened to me in real life.
Okay.
And so, which leads to the craziness that I've had, and where I got the idea for the book.
So you just started with an idea, and then it just kind of took on its own life.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a short story or a paragraph, and before I knew it, I just was writing a book. And as a matter of fact, I finished the second, and I'm on the third. It's a trilogy.
How was your experience with Paige?
So far, so good. I had gotten in touch with some companies, and they were into vanity publishing. It's like companies, they don't even care what your manuscript's about. They'll publish anything. You just want your book to be published regardless of how good or bad it is. They'll just publish anything. And that's not what I was looking for. I wanted someone to actually read my book and tell me if it was approved or if they liked it. Or I didn't just want to publish it because I wanted it published. I wanted it published because someone else thought it deserved to be published. I wanted some recognition as to just how somebody in the industry thought it was. They took time to read my manuscript, and they picked my manuscript from other manuscripts. It wasn't just where you send it in and they don't even read it, and they just give you a money figure, and they tell you, okay, you can pick out this, and this, and here's the price.
Right.
Well, no, I wanted someone to read it, to tell me it was good, and to accept it. And that was important to me.
Vanity Publishers. Thank you so much, Judy, for mentioning that. Vanity Publishers, not to be confused with Page Publishing. They're out there, and they're more than happy to take your money. You just walk up, give them your book just the way it is, and they'll take it, they'll publish it, but that's all they're going to do. And if you need any help, if you need some feedback, some guidance, that's what you come to Page Publishing for. Just like Judy said, it made her feel really good to get some feedback from Page, along with some encouragement, to feel like she kind of had to prove herself before, they just said, okay, yeah, we'll publish it. And Page also helps you edit and put your book cover together. And, you have any problems, they're right there for you. So you're not going to get attention like that from a vanity publisher. All right, we are just about out of time. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. And don't forget, we're falling back. I hope you enjoyed our show. And if you have any questions or comments, you can submit them at pagepublishing.com. There's a little area there where you can submit comments, questions, or whatever. And if you enjoyed tonight's show, come back next week for another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini, along with my faithful engineer, Rob Barretts. Barretts rhymes with carrots. Holidays are right around the corner. Give yourself a gift. Write that book. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.